The CCP is covering up its stock market crash. Chinese weapons are ending up in the hands of Hamas. But the biggest danger could be Chinese pigeons. And more on this week's China News headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Incogni. You probably know that companies are collecting your personal data, but you may not realize just how many. Dozens, maybe hundreds, most of which you've never heard of, and you have no idea what they're doing with your data. Incogni helps stop them. I'll explain more at the end. Well, good news for China. This week, China's stocks rebounded sharply on renewed talk of official support. Wait, what does renewed talk of official support mean? Well, let's see. According to Reuters, it says stocks rose on a slew of signals that authorities are strengthening their resolve to support slumping markets. Which doesn't sound like authorities are actually doing much. They're merely signals that authorities might do something. The fact stocks are rebounding on a chance makes me think everyone working with China isn't just naive, but they also have a serious gambling problem. While stocks did rebound this week, it's not as rosy as some media make it out to be. This is the Shanghai Composite Index from the last 5 days. Rebound, right? But if you look at that same index over the last 3 years, that rebound is a small blip in a long downward trend. It's like celebrating losing 5 pounds in a week after putting on 240 pounds during the lockdowns. Maybe skip the cake and head back to the treadmill. China's Shenzhen stock market is on a similar slide downward. So things are actually going horribly for the two biggest Chinese stock markets, which means that things are going horribly for Chinese companies. Hope is almost gone. Despite this, some people will hear me say almost gone and think, so you're telling me there's a chance? Invest! So who's to blame for this downward trend? Obviously, it's the independent rating agencies. You know, the ones that assess the health and profitability of companies on the stock market and provide that info to investors so investors can make better decisions? Which is why the CCP is punishing 6 major rating agencies for reporting negatively on Chinese stocks. Killing the messenger, huh? I guess this is what it means when authorities support slumping markets. The real problem is obviously that rating agencies try to tell investors the truth. If only they'd stop reporting the truth and report the way the CCP tells them, then investors will put more money into the markets, and that will solve all of China's fundamental economic problems. Those other fundamental economic problems include China's factory activity. It's shrinking because of weak demand. That leads to layoffs, so people have less money, which makes demand even weaker. Some Chinese export factories have had to lower prices so much they're on the brink of bankruptcy. That article talks about a factory owner, Mr. Lin, who took an order even though the price was 10% below his production cost, meaning he lost about $150,000. But things were so bad already, he took the order anyway, desperate just to keep the client. If their prices were any lower, they could technically be considered a charity. Though I'm not sure how many charities make their employees work in sweatshop-like conditions. Kind of defeats the whole humanitarian purpose of it. Around 15% of people in China work in jobs related to exports. And since exports are down, jobs are down too. Why? Well, other countries are buying less from China. To which I say, good. In fact, in 2023, for the first time in 2 decades, the U.S. bought more from Mexico than China. That's in part because it's been getting harder to do business with China. Chinese goods have gotten more expensive to make and import. Also, a lot of American consumers just don't want stuff made in China anymore. Probably because China's human rights record is almost as shoddy as their products. Oh, and another fundamental economic problem China is facing is debt. Local government debt has reached a record high. Local governments are running out of money. So they're issuing more and more bonds to raise capital. But the problem is they have to pay interest on those bonds, which makes them run out of money even faster. It's the equivalent of getting a payday loan, but every week. Eventually, the fees and interests will make you go bankrupt. The average Chinese citizen is not at all happy about this. Last Friday, the U.S. Embassy in Beijing posted this to Weibo. It was a message about the importance of giraffe conservation. Or was it? Because angry Chinese investors used it to post comments venting about the plunging stock market. The post got more than 160,000 comments, mostly not related to giraffes. You know things are bad when people saw the giraffe, realize its downward sloping neck looks like a plunging stock market chart, and then trauma dumped en masse. One user wrote, "The US government, please help Chinese stock investors." Another commented, "Even giraffes get protection. I'm so envious." It's sad. That makes them jealous of giraffes, and not the fact that they can whip those long necks with enough ferocity to kill an adult man. Why do I have such a stupid, short, non-lethal neck? So why did so many people jump on the giraffe post? I don't know. Probably it has more to do with it being a US embassy page, which, even though it's theoretically subject to the same censorship as other Weibo pages, I guess it feels like a place you can speak freely. Or maybe it's just because China's market regulators have disabled the comment sections of their own social media accounts. Another case of, if we don't see the bad news, then it's not happening. Kind of like how you can't get a cavity if you never see the dentist. And after the break, guess who China is sending weapons to? You probably won't like it. Welcome back. Taiwan is angered at a unilateral change China made to a Taiwan Strait flight path. With this change to the M503 flight path, certain domestic commercial flights that connect the Chinese cities of Dongshan, Fuzhou, and Xiamen will be flying on a route that comes just 4.3 miles from the Taiwan Strait median line. Taiwan and China had agreed to the route back in 2015, except according to their agreement, Chinese planes had to fly 6 nautical miles further west. Last week, China arbitrarily decided, nope, we're not going to follow that anymore. We're going to move it slightly closer to Taiwan. Now maybe this change in flight path doesn't seem like a big deal. After all, it's just a few miles, and we're talking about civilian aircraft, not military. But it is a big deal. The CCP is playing the long game. It's called salami slicing. Gradually, they push more and more, and if they don't get real pushback, they keep pushing further. If Taiwan doesn't push back hard right now, one day they'll wake up and Chinese military planes will be cruising over Taipei. The CCP is also salami slicing Japan. Last month, China ordered a Japanese fishing boat to leave waters near the Japan-held, but Beijing claimed, Senkaku Islands. Just because China claims those islands doesn't mean they're theirs. They have about as much authority claiming those waters as I do claiming the so-called Empire State Building. I call it Chapel Tower. But if China keeps pushing and Japan doesn't put back, eventually China will effectively control those islands. And they'll say they've actually been part of Chinese territory since ancient times. It's like how no one pushed back when China started gradually building up artificial islands in the South China Sea. And now those islands have runways and warplanes because nobody stopped them. It's like that old story. If you give a mouse a cookie, it's going to also take a glass of milk and your ancestral home. If you're concerned about the CCP's military buildup, at least they're not selling weapons to terrorist groups. Except that a massive cache of Chinese-made weapons was found in Gaza last month. Of course, the CCP is totally denying they've been providing weapons to Hamas to use against Israel. However, China does officially sell weapons to Iran, which then supplies weapons to Hamas. But that's totally different. And after the break, China has a terrifying new surveillance device for electronic warfare. Welcome back. Chinese scientists say they have developed a game-changing military surveillance device for electronic warfare. Basically, it's a tool that will let them intercept all enemy communications during a battle. This is high-tech because it allows real-time monitoring of signals that used to be impossible to capture. Radio, satellite, basically any signal frequency. Now, if you could only tell me when women are sending me signals, you hear me, fellas? According to the scientists, this device also allows the Chinese military to suppress those signals while leaving their own communications uninterrupted. So while China attacks, US or Taiwanese troops could be left completely unable to talk to each other, unless they go old school. Of course, the Chinese scientists may be lying, but the US probably isn't when it says it has disabled a Chinese hacking network targeting critical infrastructure, like naval ports, internet service providers, and power lines. That Chinese hacking network is being labeled Volt Typhoon. And look, it's good the US found and disabled some of those hacks. But how long did Volt Tycoon have access to America's internet and power grids before they were disabled? And did the US disable all of these kind of hacks? Not likely. Probably only a small fraction. going to be so mad if China gets access to my internet search history. I'll be absolutely ruined if the world learns how much I watch clips from Gilmore Girls. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo has another hacking concern: Chinese electric vehicles. She says they pose serious data security risks. Like Tesla's, Chinese EVs constantly collect information about the driver, location, and the car's surroundings. The difference is Chinese EVs may be sending that data to Beijing. Dang it, so they know how much I watch the Gilmore Girls while driving too. I might have a problem. Fortunately, there are still basically no Chinese EVs in the US, because both the Trump and Biden administration have put in a 25% tariff. That makes US electric vehicles more competitive. But Europe and Australia have been flooded with cheap Chinese EVs. Policymakers in those countries call Chinese cars affordable, but eventually everyone will realize how much they're really paying. Chinese EVs are like living next to an active volcano. Sure, it might be the more affordable option, but sooner or later, you're going to get burned. You know what else is a security risk? Pigeons! That's right, pigeons! A pigeon accused of spying for China has been freed in India after an 8-month detention. Do they torture the pigeon, waterboard it, electrocute it, eat a bunch of delicious bread right in front of it without offering any crumbs? Police in Mumbai had found the bird with metal rings tied to its legs and Chinese writings under its wings. Naturally, they assumed it was a Chinese spy. After all, China does do a lot of aerial spying. In this case, though, experts say the bird probably got lost during a race off the coast of Taiwan and may have hitched a ride on a boat. So the bird was finally released this week, weirdly after a campaign by PETA, the organization that exploits women's bodies to help animals. So, okay, possibly India detaining the pigeon was a mistake. It would be terrible if that bird was held in an Indian prison on false charges. China would never do that to animals, only people. And this episode is sponsored by Incogni. Whenever you do anything online or use apps on your phone, there are tons of companies that collect your personal data. When I signed up for Incogni, I discovered there were dozens of data brokers that potentially had my private information without my permission. And these companies can get hacked, spreading my private information even more widely. For example, in January, Russian hackers broke into Microsoft's corporate email system and gained access to some accounts of the company's leadership team. Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing. But think about this. Microsoft almost certainly has at least some of your personal data. And if Microsoft can get hacked so easily, imagine all the other smaller companies that have also been collecting your personal data over the years. So what can you do? Get as many of these companies as possible to delete your data from their systems. That's what Incogni does for you. Incogni has already gotten my details removed from 180 of these data brokers, with a lot more in progress, and I didn't have to do anything after signing up. Incogni just handles it. So I recommend you get Incogni for yourself and reclaim your own data. Go to incogni.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Get your personal data off the market with Incogni. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.